This show is for general informational purposes only and does not constitute the practice of medicine, nursing, or other professional healthcare services, including the giving of medical advice. The content on this show is not intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Users should not disregard or delay in obtaining medical advice for any medical condition they have, and they should seek the assistance of their healthcare professionals for any such condition.
This is Rooted in Healing with Dr. Beth Claxton, exploring the science of functional medicine and the power of healing from within. Breathe in, breathe out. And now your host, Dr. Beth Claxton.
Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Rooted in Healing. We've had a couple of interviews so far with from a gastroenterology standpoint of functional medicine, talking about how important our intestinal health is. And today I'm going to go out on an edge that is a modality that isn't endorsed necessarily by the Institute for Functional Medicine, at least in our training, and is somewhat controversial for sure in the field of Western medicine. This is a practice called colon hydrotherapy. And colon hydrotherapy is something that I personally did try many years ago and really didn't find it very therapeutic for me. And so when I met someone local in Sedona who practices colon hydrotherapy, I was curious to talk and have a conversation about what are indications, how does this help, because I had really never heard a body that truly endorsed it. So I approached Kimberlie Cerda, and she's recently opened a clinic in Cottonwood, which is about 20 miles south of Sedona. And we had a conversation about colon hydrotherapy, and I did learn some things. So that's the interview that we're going to have today. And we do mention in the interview, going back till the beginning of recorded history, there has been a practice of colon hydrotherapy, otherwise known as enemas, to help clear the colon. Now, why is this important? Doesn't the colon just clear itself? That's what we're taught. And as I do what I do, I question what we're being taught. I question what's being passed down and what we're told. And I really do place that against the ancient wisdom because it seems like there was an understanding, maybe a deeper understanding of how the body worked, at least on a spiritual level, that has been lost since that time. I don't know if I would call enemas spiritual, but I'm sure that there are, on some level, there is a connection there. I do know that in the practice of Ayurveda, which is ancient Eastern Indian medicine, it's the oldest recorded type of medicine. Enemas were regularly practiced with herbs, which they boiled in water and distilled out the solution, strained it, and this was super helpful. It was a practice called Basti, B-A-S-T-I, and to me, the practice of enemas, I'd have to say the debate is still open for me. In obstetrics, just about the time that I was starting my residency was the time that enemas were falling out of favor for women who are coming in labor. Anyone who's watched Call the Midwife knows that the midwives were walking around with enema bottles in their bags. So, not to belabor the point, I think it's something worth considering. And we can learn a little bit more from Kimberlie today on Rooted in Healing about her colon hydrotherapy protocol and the people that she's worked with and what she's learned throughout her career as a colon hydrotherapist. And we will go to station break now, and we'll be back for our interview with Kimberlie Cerda. Thanks for tuning in.
And now, more Rooted in Healing with Dr. Beth Claxton.
Hi, this is Dr. Beth. Thank you so much for coming back. Today we have with us Kimberlie Cerda. And Kimberlie is a trained colon hydrotherapist who is local to the Sedona area. She has an office in Cottonwood. And she is a previously licensed esthetician and international educator. She started off when being young with her parents owning a holistic nutrition business, and this exposed her to various health practitioners and physicians and different types of modalities. And while she was an athlete in her youth, and still is, this kept her very interested in her health and the body and its well-being. And she thought of pursuing chiropractic college and ended up going into speech communication, and then shifted over to holistic nutrition, whole colon hydrotherapy, aromatherapy, and herbs. And she has studied colon hydrotherapy with different protocols and passionately believes it's one of the best helpers to detoxify and clean the human body back to excellent health. And it can be used in conjunction with many health and healing specialties to increase and improve healthy results. So welcome, Kimberlie.
Thank you, Dr. Beth. Thank you for having me.
Oh, you're welcome. So nice to have you here. So I wanted to have you because for many reasons, I think that it's important for people to know more about colon hydrotherapy. And having been in the Western medicine world for 35 years myself, it's not a modality that tends to be embraced by the Western medicine culture. And I wanted to talk with you about that and see if we could, dispel some myths, if there are, those kind of things, and talk about, like, maybe it's not for everyone, but who would be the best type of patient or client to come see you for colon hydrotherapy, who responds the best. So first of all, tell us a little bit about what is colon hydrotherapy.
Sure. Yeah, some good questions. Colon hydrotherapy, put very simply, is basically hydrating to saturate the colon. The colon is about 5.5 feet of large intestine before we release the rest of the fecal matter that we cannot use, that our body cannot use. And so colon hydrotherapy basically, in a nutshell, what it does is we're saturating the colon with liquid water, warm, clean water, to actually soften the impactions. Impactions visualize like dried sponges that are in different parts of the colon, or can be in different parts of the colon, to soften them, to eliminate them, so that we can hence release the toxicity that can be built up if they stay stuck in our intestine, in our colon.
Right. So people understand about the toxicity. When we detoxify, it starts high up in the very first part of our small intestines, which is very long. And so it starts right there with bile coming from the liver that has a lot of toxins in it, us breaking down our food, and a lot of the toxins getting turned into from water soluble or fat soluble to water soluble, so they will stay in the stool. At this point in the digestive process, it's called chyme, and work its way down. And in our world right now, there's so many toxins that we breathe and eat, and even the toxicity in our mind translates into the colon and the small intestines.
Yes.
So as we move it into the colon, there's so many things that happen because of our toxic world and our fight or flight response. There's a lack of parasympathetic nerve tone, which leads us to be constipated. It also slows the digestive process. So these toxins sort of linger in the small intestines and therefore linger in our body. Then we can get dehydrated because in the colon, a lot of the reabsorption of water happens. So if things are slowed down and sitting in the colon for so long, then they get desiccated or dried out like an old sponge and stuck. So then we've got stuck, dried out toxic sponges lining our large intestines when really that should be moving out.
Yes, for sure. I would even back up and to say, when we're talking about the lymphatic system and the immune system, it all depends on how well a person's system works. So how well is your liver working to be able to flush out down to the colon, down to the small intestine and then into the colon, and how well are your kidneys working to be able to flush, which leads actually into the question you originally asked about with allopathic medicine and dispelling some of the myths. There's a lot right this moment having to do with exactly what we're talking about, releasing toxicity out of the system. And I like to give people the example of when they brush and clean their teeth, brush and floss their teeth. We may be really good at it and do it every day, regularly, sometimes twice a day. And even when we do that and we go to the dental hygienist, they're still going to find plaque. And that's exposed to air. Our colon is not. So it's even more of a slime show and a toxic, landfill, or can be, down in our intestines, because it's an enclosed place where if there is stuck old stuff there that we cannot process, it can be large, it can be small, it can line the pockets of the intestines, such as like mucus lining. There are different ways it can happen. But what I was going to say is, in helping, for instance, regeneration doctors and clinics, they give a lot of IV therapies. They do a lot of injection therapies. They do hyperbaric chambers. They do all types of these wonderful new therapies that work in conjunction and can work beautifully in conjunction with lymphatic drainage and colon hydrotherapy, because people that are going in to see them, no matter whether they have a very serious disease like cancer or something else, or if they are just going for, to feel more energy and more vitality and to clear their skin, their body can only use what they're being given, what they're paying for, to the extent that their liver and their kidneys can absorb it and assimilate it and use it. So this is where colon hydrotherapy really helps, and other types of lymphatic, helping the lymphatic system drain and flush, is that it actually eases up it being so hard on the liver and kidneys and having the body work so hard. Basically, the body can not work as hard to be able to flush easier and more efficiently.
And while we're on this thought, I want to throw in there that as menopausal women, there's such a focus on menopause these days, which I love.
Yeah.
As a menopausal woman, the bile production from the liver, which is where a lot of the toxins are dumped and fed into the small intestines to be released, our bile production drops 50% or so when our estrogen production falls off. So that's something to think about for menopausal women, that our detoxification abilities are already significantly impaired going into menopause.
Yes. You obviously know more details and the specifics on that. Again, I would take that to a larger picture and say that when we look at with not just bile production, but other healthy hormonal functions in our bodily system, male or female, a lot of, I believe, aging, quote unquote aging, has a lot more to do with larger systems. What we're eating, how much we're eating, the time of day we're eating, if and when we're exercising, what we're actually doing to exercise, if that's actually helping drain the lymphatic system, the types of stress that we're around on the daily basis, how we handle our emotions with that stress. I believe these bigger structures that are not always internal do affect us internally with the details of what you're talking about that are very, very important to look at. And this, again, is where colon hydrotherapy comes in beautifully for the average person, I would say, from the standpoint of helping people start to regulate and to manage and actually even to come back to healthy motility in the large intestine.
Mm-hmm. So what kind of clients have you seen? What kind of success stories have you seen in this arena? Without naming names, of course.
Yes. No. I've had the privilege and honor to work in various clinics all over the country so far and help out. And I would say one of the biggest... Well, I've seen a lot at Hippocrates Health Institute in Florida. There they have some very seriously ill clients, patients for them that come to them, and they've got a very strong and strict protocol that they work with that includes colon hydrotherapy and nightly enemas with other things. I think that working with clients that, again, from serious issues to not serious issues, I've seen lots of different things. So the serious issues, what I have seen, I've seen people heal from food allergies. I've seen people heal from other diseases, stronger diseases such as cancer. I can't say that colon hydrotherapy was the only reason for that. I think in conjunction with other lymphatic draining procedures and immune procedures, protocols that they were using. What I can say, a previous boss of mine that has 4 clinics down in the Phoenix area, she had never even considered colon hydrotherapy until she had endometriosis, to the point where they wanted to do a hysterectomy, a full hysterectomy. And I believe she was in her mid-30s at this point. And she obviously didn't want that to happen. And so what she did do is she took the advice of a friend and decided to get a package of 10 colon hydrotherapy sessions. And then I don't know her exact protocol. I think she was doing 2 or 3 times a week. Not quite back to back. She might have started off back to back and then gave it, a day or 2 and then did another. So I'm not sure on her exact protocol, but she did start doing these, and she got not quite halfway through, and nothing much was really shifting or changing. And she thought she'd basically wasted her money, but she figured she had nothing to lose, to try it before getting surgery. Well, about session 6 or 7. A little bit more than halfway through her package, everything started to change and shift. Everything, bigger releases started to come out. Basically, the hydration was probably able to get all the way over to her ascending colon, and she probably had many more impactions on that side. Anyway, everything started to come out. She ended up, bottom line, not needing the surgery, endometriosis completely going away, and even her food allergies went away. She now works in her clinics in Vita down in Phoenix with their protocol, and they work with very seriously ill clients, patients. They send their patients, part of their protocol, similar to Hippocrates, they send their clients weekly, different protocols, sometimes 2, sometimes 3 times a week, and I have worked there and worked on some of their clients for colon hydrotherapy sessions. And that is part of, again, helping drain the lymphatic system and really completely revamping their whole immune system.
Yeah, it's fascinating. So let's go back in history.
Okay.
Colon hydrotherapy is not something that was developed in the 1960s.
No, no.
It's actually ancient.
Yes.
Ancient, like maybe even back like earliest civilization, Egyptian. Tell us about that.
So they say. I'm not a historian, so I won't claim to be one. I do know it does date back at least to the Egyptians. Mm-hmm. Obviously, back then, what they had were more gravity systems, mm-hmm. more like what would commonly in today's world be used as like a basic enema type of kit, where the water is hung up above somebody's head. They're either laying down or sitting on some type of chair or table or ground, and then doing a session, a colon hydrotherapy session. Something is then inserted, like one of our, either a speculum or in my case with an open device, a nozzle, mm-hmm. That fits into the anus. They used to have something called a high enema colonic, mm-hmm. which they used to use a longer nozzle or speculum. That's not what we use in today's way of being. It's much less invasive. Mm-hmm. In fact, it's not even considered an invasive procedure. It is very gentle, actually, and maybe even just an inch and a half is actually inside a client's anus. Mm-hmm. That's lubricated, as well as the anus is lubricated. The nozzle I use is not quite the diameter of my pinky. Mm-hmm. Has a hole in the center, mm-hmm. and that's where the water comes out. It is a constant flow of water, though, in mm-hmm. in an open or a modern day device, even mm-hmm. closed systems. There are some people in the country that I know of that still use gravity devices, mm-hmm. But yeah, generally most are open or closed devices that are used in modern society.
And something just came to me to share when I started studying in my residency in obstetrics. Mm. It was a shift. There were some nurses that had been in obstetrics for 30 years wow. previously, that were at the end of their nursing careers as I was coming in fresh and green into obstetrics. But they remembered the days of a woman coming in to have a baby and they gave them an enema.
Yes. Yes. It's interesting you say that. I gave birth to my daughter at home. Mm-hmm. She's now 24, so it was a while back. And I had the help of 2 midwives. I also had an OBGYN on call as well. But I preferred having a water birth at home. And that was the first thing when my water broke. That was the first thing that we did was an enema. I gave myself an enema.
And how did it help?
I was already starting contractions, so I can't really say that I remember how it helped, mm-hmm. although I know that some things came out. Mm-hmm. I think that in the pushing process of giving birth, you're giving it your all. You're not thinking whether you're pushing fecal matter out or you're pushing a baby out. You're just giving it your all. So I think that is the reason that is done ahead of time. And my my daughter's birth process was almost 24 hours. Mm-hmm. And that was with no drugs, no hospital, yeah. That was some special tea, wheatgrass juice that I drank ahead of time, and just endurance and shock.
Yeah. Yeah. And the birthing process is just cathartic.
Oh, yes.
From one end to the other, really.
Literally.
And
yes.
transformative to your life and
yes.
everything.
Yes.
So I'm just wondering if we're going to see a resurgence of that potentially in birth. Not that we need to expound on it, but it's a question since the hydrotherapy seems to be
yes,
again.
It's interesting you're bringing this up. I lived in a different country. I lived over in a European country when I was pregnant, so I was able to do colon hydrotherapy when I was there because I was constipated because of my hormone changes. In this country, that's a contraindication. So I would not work with anybody that is pregnant. I could work with somebody maybe while they're trying to get pregnant and somebody after they've given birth, provided that they don't have other contraindications, and it was okay with their doctor, which I would probably require somebody to get a doctor's okay and just make sure. I remember my first bowel movement after giving birth and being afraid, like, oh my God, what's going to happen?
Yeah.
And everything came out okay. But yeah, definitely, it's different in different places. The acceptance of more natural ways of doing things that help the body help itself, basically.
Right, support. So what we're going back to ancient history, because
Sure.
I think that's so fascinating.
Go for it.
What were some of the indications for enemas in ancient cultures?
What I know of, and again, I'm not a historian on colon hydrotherapy by any stretch. What I know of, a lot of royalty received colon hydrotherapy sessions or enemas. Women, I think the pregnancy process was also part of colon hydrotherapy sessions or enemas. What else? Sometimes when people were ill, I remember reading about if people had like leprosy or something like that, sometimes, again, given an environment that they were in, that actually offered something like that, where maybe there was a shaman or a medicine person, a curandero or something like this, somebody could be given something at that point. But the exact, all the exact of it, I do not know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, in Ayurveda, there definitely is, and there are enemas with herbs. You boil the enema with certain herbs and strain it and all of this, yeah.
Yes, and it's interesting because there are a lot of people who work with, that I know of, even some friends I have that actually practice and work with Ayurveda. They're not Ayurvedic doctors by any means, but they practice it and live with the herbs and things. But they do not necessarily believe in colon hydrotherapy. They use their herbs for the clean out process. And I think there's something to be said with that as well.
Well, when you explain it about reducing toxicity, that's huge. And the lymph stimulation, that's part of the process. That makes sense as well.
Yes, the lymph stimulation, but also it's helping the lymph actually release. It's helping the lymph not have to work as hard to actually do its job, which then, again, backing up a little bit, when we talk about, aging and vitality and different things like this, if the body has to work harder to just do regular functions, it's going to have to, quote unquote, steal energy from other, parts of the body to be able to do those regular things, just to break food down, right? So if the body, if we help the body help itself, like I like to say, with lymphatic drainage or the immune system, if we can find and use alternative ways in conjunction with different modalities, I think the body then has the potential to actually be able to help itself easier, more efficiently, and thus, not that we don't age, but that aging process doesn't need to be so hard. It doesn't need to be so taxing and hard. The person can age more gracefully and maybe even healthier.
Mm-hmm. Right. So I have a question. You had mentioned that hydrating the colon is so important, and it can take several treatments for that to occur, eventually around the whole colon. Is it because people tend to be dehydrated, or could someone be able to hydrate their colon enough by just drinking enough water?
Generally, what I see in myself and others is that all of us are dehydrated. And that's not just from not drinking enough water, because we can only absorb so much water even if we drink enough. Mm. And again, depending on what's going on with a person's metabolism in their body, how they absorb and assimilate whatever they're taking in, that's going to change from person to person. I think we also have to consider nutrition, what people are eating, stress levels, and other things that can dehydrate, at least what I see, that can dehydrate a person and their bowel. For instance, if someone eats something that the body recognizes, maybe just even in the way it's cooked, the body recognizes it as poison, as a poison to the body. The body is going to, it may taste good going down, but once it gets into the system, the body's going to freak out and go into more or less like a survival mode. And when it does that, it's going to go to all the different parts that are not life and death, including the large intestine, to actually take hydration, liquid, from that place to be able just to break that thing down, that food down, to be able to eventually get it back to that large intestine, which possibly by that time the large intestine could be a little bit dehydrated because it just had something taken from it to be able just to get something flushed out of, the stomach and to actually even break it down. Again, I'm simplifying a lot here. So I think that there's a lot more to it than what we normally just think of. I think there's a lot more to it. The other thing, there's no way for anyone to know unless they do some sort of a scan, I guess, to see where all the impactions are in any given person. I don't know when I meet somebody. They could have something really low. They could have, lots of impactions all over. Who knows? Most people, when I say impaction, I again refer back to that dried sponge. It could be something large. It could be something small. And they can be anywhere in the large intestine. So it takes, when we say hydration, I'm going to take one word further and say it's about more or less saturation. We want to be able to saturate the colon to soften things, but not just to soften impactions, but also to reestablish that peristalsis, which is the natural squeezing, so that the body can come back to a normalcy of recognizing that, something's in there, I need to squeeze it out. So we're also, with colon hydrotherapy, trying to reestablish a regularity so that it's not about being dependent on colon hydrotherapy or even enemas. It's about being able to regulate one's body themselves and learn alternative habits themselves that they can actually reestablish a healthy patterns with their own body, and also to recognize consciously, I might need some more water. I might need to give myself an enema. Again, because normally people don't come, on the regular, on the daily for a colon hydrotherapy session. Depending on, if someone's doing maybe a clean out or a parasite cleanse, or someone's got a doctor's prescription for a certain amount of them because they have a cancer, or they're doing some other special protocol. But yeah, there are various reasons. But like I said, I think it goes back to our daily habits and coming back to a conscious recognition of really self-care and what we actually need, listening to our body better.
And reevaluating those French fries.
Yes, exactly.
When you started,
yes.
That was the first thing that came to my mind. Oh my gosh, the French fries.
Yeah. Actually, that's what I was thinking of when I said that. I didn't say French fries, but because I love French fries. I love potatoes in general. And yeah, the French fries, again, just in, not all French fries are the same these days. Some have a lot of fillers and things inside of them, but then how they're cooked, right. They're basically completely dead. So, yeah, I mean, again, they taste good going down, but, and if you've eaten that with some sugary thing like ketchup or something like that, then...
Yeah, high fructose corn syrup.
Exactly. Yeah. Again, the body's going to freak out, but also then there are enzymes involved and, other things that are trying to do their job but can't necessarily to the same efficiency that they could otherwise.
Right. The immune system changes that happen in response to French fries.
Yes.
The advanced glycated end products and just the whole like oxidative stress that comes in with the damaged fats. Yeah. Okay. We're digressing.
Yes.
But yes, colon hydrotherapy. This all what you put in your mouth that tastes good for 5 seconds.
Yes.
Could end up being that desiccated, dried piece of sponge stuck to your colon and making you not feel good.
Yes.
In the end.
Yes. Yes. And add to that, if something is stuck there for years and you've got toxicity build up for years, I mean, that's not necessarily a good thing.
Well, that's what leads to disease.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. So you had referred to physicians referring patients to you. Mm-hmm. What kind of conditions do they refer to you for? You said cancer. What else?
These are types of clients I've seen. I've seen clients with very, very serious diseases such as cancer or liver problems, serious liver issues where they may need even a transplant. Clients have come for IBS, irritated bowel syndrome, chronic constipation, diarrhea even. And a lot of people don't realize diarrhea actually is a sign of more or less constipation. Mm-hmm. Bodies, again, different bodies react in different ways. We can all have different types of symptoms based on our own body's metabolism and how it functions. Again, I refer back to our individual thumbprint. Even identical twins have a different thumbprint, right? So this, to me, is a signal that our metabolisms and our hormones, all of us, even though there's a general structure to it, like you know much better than me, there's also the individuality of our systems as well. So, IBS, chronic constipation, diseases, problems, parasite cleanses, people trying to lose weight and release, extra fecal matter out of their bowel.
Yeah, probably all from detoxification. It can really boost that. Yes,
as well as, colonics have become a real big hit in the celebrity world. There was a clinic I worked at in Santa Barbara for some time in California a few years back, and we had quite a few celebrity clients. So people come in for just a general pick-me-up sometimes. They may be doing and eating healthy and they come in for a revitalization, kind of like someone would go into a regeneration doctor's office and get an injection or an ozone treatment or an IV or something like this. So colonics are, they're used on various scales. We've got people that come in, having been a former licensed esthetician. Skincare all starts with, what's going on inside of you. Mm-hmm. Again, best hormones, so the hormone balance or imbalance or something could be going on, with that. And so people will come in for skin issues. And again, I lead this right back to the immune system and the lymphatic system. The more old toxicity that we can clean out from that 5.5 feet of colon, I think the healthier, at least the symptoms that we see, the results that we see, even the whites of your eyes can change. It's amazing.
That is amazing. And I was just thinking, celebrities, they are the kings in our culture.
Yes.
They're the kings getting the care taken of their colon. And I'm
often at the cutting edge of new types of modalities.
Mm-hmm. I'm also going back to the story of the endometriosis.
Yes.
Endometriosis, I've learned, is a condition of estrogen dominance. And one of the big places where estrogen is detoxified, it's put into the colon to pass out, to come out as stool. a lot of times what can happen is there can be bacteria present that reverse that detoxification process, re-release the estrogen into the system.
Interesting.
That goes back and feeds that estrogen dominance. So women aren't able to eliminate that estrogen. And I can see how the colon hydrotherapy could potentially help clear out the toxins, let everything run through more smoothly, and eliminate this backed up estrogen that kept getting re-released.
Yes. It's interesting you say this because I've had this theory. There's no studies that I know done on this, but for me it's kind of a common sense. I mean, as physiological women, basically we share a vaginal wall with our rectal wall. Mm-hmm. And so if we're constipated and there is chronic constipation and toxicity that's present there, that could definitely change pH. That can definitely change bacteria levels, mm-hmm. And then over a long period of time. I've also heard it changes sex drive. It can change hormonal levels. Again, I don't have any, like you, I'm not a doctor, so I don't have proof of this, but I've thought just from common sense, it's like, and my studies in the human body, it makes sense for us women anyway, that there might be more problems mm-hmm. that would be shown faster mm-hmm. in the body just because of sharing that wall right there, the basic wall anyway.
Yeah, and you've observed that in your career, but also speaking to men.
Yes.
Testosterone is converted into estrogen, and that's one of the ways that it's cleared. Mm. And men, the signs of estrogen excess in men looks different. It can be the weight gain in the buttocks and the hips.
Interesting.
They can develop, the man boobs.
Yes. That's
all estrogen dominance in men.
Interesting.
So now you can observe that in the clinic. And one of the reasons I wanted to have you on the show is I was myself curious about colon hydrotherapy, and probably 15 or more years ago had a series of colonics myself, but thought it really didn't do anything. And thinking back to that time of my life, I was pretty toxic. I don't know. I think I was drinking water, but living in the mountains and working long nights and probably eating my share of French fries in the middle of the night at the hospital. It might not have been enough.
Enough colon hydrotherapy sessions?
Right, and might not have been enough sessions to really begin to break things up.
Well, that, and also, remember, it's not just about the amount of sessions, it's about the protocol of the session. So, like, for instance, earlier we were speaking about, in the colon hydrotherapy world, a baseline just to get somebody started, even if they've done colon hydrotherapy before and haven't done it recently, a baseline is generally a minimum of 3 sessions just to get you at a baseline of some sense of regularity and a deeper cleanse, which would be 1 session one day. And again, you're going to be watching what you eat, what you drink, being very gentle with your body before, during, and after. The next day you'd come in and do another session to saturate the colon, because that way basically you're marinating in the water to soften those impactions. You'd skip a day and then you'd come a third day. And hopefully by that time the colon would be, for most people, not everyone of course, the colon would be more saturated and old hard stool would be softened enough to be ready to be released. Old toxicity and residue off the sides of those pockets of the intestine would be able to come out. So I don't know what your protocol was. Just doing 1 session, and if you've never done it before, and depending on what was going on with your body, and there are other factors too. People these days, a lot of people are on a lot of, not necessarily you, but a lot of people are on a lot of different medications. Medications are generally not natural. They're man-made. And anything that's man-made is basically going to affect the body in a powerful way, not just hormonally, but in other ways, because a body has to get rid of. Our bodies are organic. they're carbon-based. So if we are taking in things that are not, natural, our body has to work harder to get rid of those things. So again, each person and their response to how fast they're going to release those impactions in colon hydrotherapy, I'm getting down to the tail end, pardon the pun, but how fast they're going to release, when they're going to release. Like I told you, my old director, she had to almost get to 10 sessions. And I don't know what her protocol was. I think she was doing 3 times a week, but I don't know exactly what her protocol was. She's on YouTube, by the way, and I can give you her name later on. You can look her up because her story is pretty fascinating. But yeah, it's different for each person. People are going to have different responses. The general response to one colon hydrotherapy session is people will feel lighter. They'll feel tired. They could feel tired. Sometimes they could feel nauseous.
Detoxification symptoms.
Yes,
okay.
Exactly. Exactly. But generally, one session, having never done it before, a one and done is not going to get much deeper than maybe your sigmoid colon area, if that, depending on how much old stuff is in your system and where it's located.
Yeah, good to know. Okay, another question. Coffee enemas. Do you do those? And what are they about? What do they do?
Coffee enemas I do for myself. I don't do with clients. It's strictly water with clients, just based on legalities and that kind of thing. And those are called insertions, by the way. If somebody, you don't put it in the regular water, you put it in after you've done a regular session of water. So with an enema, it's a little bit different. You can actually make the coffee, put it in the enema bag, and then, just use the coffee basically as an enema. I will say this, is that and I'm not a coffee drinker. I never have been. I never liked it. I like eating coffee beans, which is really strange. I do not and have never liked coffee. So I've never been a coffee drinker. When we metabolize anything through our mouth, we're going to metabolize it differently than when we put it into our anus and up through the colon. It's going to be metabolized and used in a whole different way.
Makes sense.
So what I notice personally when I do coffee enemas, I notice more energy. I feel clean, which I feel that way with a regular water enema.
Go ahead.
And I think I feel more, there's a vitality that I feel when I do it on a regular basis.
Okay.
I think that what I've looked into, doing coffee enemas through the colon, or anything through the colon, like in Hippocrates, they use you do 4 ounces of wheatgrass juice as an insertion every night before you go to bed after you do an enema, just with regular water. Okay. And then you sleep on that 4 ounces of wheatgrass juice. Now, of course, all 4 ounces is not going to stay inside. Right. But bottom line with coffee is that it can help cleanse the liver, help cleanse the liver specifically this way, because you're not having to metabolize it.
Okay.
This way you have to metabolize it,
right,
and the liver has to work to break it down.
Right.
When you take it in the intestine, you're taking it in to actually help support the liver in cleansing itself.
Okay.
And not having to metabolize it as a nutrient, basically.
Great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you for being on with us. Thanks for coming into the studio.
My pleasure.
It was lovely, and I will have your clinic on the exit. I'll make sure we mention how people can find you.
Thank you very much. Yes, both here and then also internationally as well.
Great.
Yeah.
Thanks, Kimberlie.
Thank you, Dr. Beth.
And we'll be right back after these messages.
And now, more Rooted in Healing with Dr. Beth Claxton.
Hi, this is Dr. Beth, and we have wrapped up our interview with Kimberlie Cerda, colon hydrotherapist in Cottonwood, Arizona. She has her new office by the Verde Valley Wellness Center near the medical complex on Willard Street. It's about 20 miles south of Sedona. Her email address is Entrega Pura Wellness, ENTREGAPURAWELLNESS @gmail.com. Website www.entregapurewellness.com. And she is available for appointments, new in business, and eager to help you out. Keep tuning into us any Saturday at 9 a.m. I love it that you're listening. And if you can't catch us, you can always go to Mellow Mountain Radio's website and find us there. We are also available on Apple Podcast. And this is KAZM 106.5 FM and 780 AM, Mellow Mountain Radio. This is Rooted in Healing, and we are on Saturdays at 9 a.m. You can find me at bethclaxtonmd.com, and I look forward to meeting you. Thanks for tuning in.